o'clock. We're going to go ahead and get started here. Before we do, if y'all don't mind, I'm going to open us up with a quick word of prayer, and we'll handle a little internal business before we get going. So if y'all will, just bow with me. Dear Heavenly Father, just thank you for this day, and thank you for all your many blessings. Thank you for allowing us all to be here. Just continue to lead and guide us as we make decisions for this state. Just be with us, as many of us will be on the roads today traveling home. Give us safe traveling journeys, and bring us all back next week. In your name I pray. Amen. Alrighty. Well, it's good to be here. My name is Representative Sam Watson, and I'm excited to be chairing this committee. This is our first meeting. And we do need to take care of a couple housekeeping items before we move on to our business. You should have the committee rules in your folder there in front of you. If you would, just take a minute or two to look those over and make sure you're good with those, and then we'll continue forward. All right. Got a motion and a second. All those in favor? All right, good deal. All right, well, appreciate everybody being here today, and I appreciate this committee. This committee put hours of work into Senate Bill 2 last session, which is the item of business today. This bill passed unanimously out of the Senate with unanimous votes. It also passed out of this committee after y'all worked diligently on it last session. There's been no changes to the bill other than the author has brought a substitute with updated dates. It passed out of this committee. It passed out of rules. We're not going to take any public comment today. We're going to allow the author to come forward and present the bill, and we'll take a few questions from the committee and then go from there. Senator, thank you for being here today.
Is painful, but I'm glad we got it done. And so basically with no changes to what y'all did last time, I would rather subject myself to any questions you may have, so I'm not wasting your time. But the bill is the same bill that we left here with last time. It doesn't do everything that I wanted it to do, but from what I've learned in my brief time here, that's kind of the standard for how legislation goes, that I may not have all the answers by myself when we start. So I do appreciate y'all's effort. Mr. Chairman, subject to questions.
All right, well, thank you, Mr. Chairman, for bringing this bill forward, and I think we've got a couple questions already. Number 17.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senator Dugan, I thank you. Just a quick question.
Mm-hmm.
Does ACCG and GMA still oppose this bill?
I would prefer that I'm not avoiding it, but I don't want to speak for them.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
I have my suspicions, but I don't want to speak for them.
Thank you, Senator.
Any other questions? All right, I got a few lighting up here. Number 1.
Oh, thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Senator. Not quite a question, just more clarity, because, it's been almost a year.
Uh-huh.
So, and I think part of the issue that we had with it was a lot of mandates on the cities, and I believe they're gone. I just wanted to confirm, because, again, we had a lot of meetings. I really don't remember where we ended up.
Right.
And I don't see them, but I just wanted for clarity that those were the issues.
Mandates are gone.
Thank you, sir.
Well, we have recommendations, and then I'm going to say our mandates on the cities are gone. If a city or county makes a mandate on themselves, like they could with anything else, then that is permitted within the bill. Thank you.
Number 2.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, you said that the House did perfect it, but as I recall, a year ago, there were still a lot of questions when we left, similar to what Representative Carter mentioned. So I wasn't a part of those conversations of where it got perfected. I don't know if you were. Can you go over some of the things that they changed? Because I remember
Sure.
there was a lot of discussion about if it was doable, the number of, as far as whether or not with the fees and the county, if they did it fast enough and time frames. There was like a lot of discussion.
Right. They, the stuff that we're talking about within the part of the perfection, the mandate being a piece of it, there was some question about whether we were setting the time limits for each of the municipalities, and we're not. They're establishing their own.
Okay.
The funny answer would be the title that I brought over is still the same, and Section 1 is largely untouched. A good bit of the rest of the bill was improved significantly while we were here before this committee. The misconception that we're mandating anything to them is just not true. I guess I'm gonna back up on that. We mandate to them, they establish their own processes and procedures and then follow them. But like you would expect from anybody, you can make your own rules. You can come out and establish whatever it is you want to do. But once you've done that, we're counting on you to follow your own set of rules, which seems kind of intuitive, but has not always been the case.
Okay.
All right, number 7.
That'd be me.
I yield.
Senator, this is one of those questions. You and I talk about stuff all the time. This is just one that a logical thought process would be is that the cities and counties, whoever's impacted by this would just set a time frame. If they say, okay, we'll get you the information in 6 months,
Right.
or a year, or whatever, some date that's
Long out there. Yeah.
out to avoid the possibility,
Right.
the probability of them being late in doing it. So is this really going to help, or is this going to hurt?
Well,
You
and
understand? Am I making sense with the
yeah,
question?
you are, and I appreciate you bringing it up. If I'm somebody that's wanting to grow within the state, and you're City A, and you put out this long timeline, and right down the street, City B has a much more compressed timeline, and I know that you're going to abide by your contract with me, I'm going to go to City B. Now, I'm not going to say you've got to change your timeline. You have the ability to modify it over a period of time, but I'm not going to come to you and go, that's too long. Because just the sheer competitive nature of anybody wanting to start or grow a business within the state of Georgia, I'm going to move to the one that that is the easiest to work with, honestly.
Yeah, and theoretically, I would agree with that. But if City B next door, or for that matter, City C, if they don't have the place for me where I want to conduct my business, then that's not an option to go there.
No.
So I guess, and again, I'm not knocking what you're doing at all. I'm just trying to understand if we're really helping or hurting, because some of these cities probably have a timeline that's relatively reasonable right now. I know some of them not making it, but it's relatively reasonable. But passage of this, I'm just trying to figure out if we would in fact be encouraging them to expand those timelines in order to be in compliance with what we do here.
It's a hypothetical that I'm not sure that I agree with. I understand what you're saying, but there's also no requirement that they hold if they create this extended timeline. There's also no requirement that they wait to the very end to meet what they said they would. They can do it shorter. So that would be more on the front side. And I'm not gonna create a shipyard in Blue Ridge. I'm probably gonna put that down closer to a body of water. So sometimes there are constraints that you're talking about, but those are Those are fairly limited, fortunately, within the state of Georgia.
Number 22. Representative
Thank you,
Bigelow.
Mr. Chairman. Is this thing on? Hello?
Yeah, now you go.
Okay, got me now. Senator, thank you again for all your hard work. I know you and I and Representative Donahue and Chairman Nimmer worked a lot of hours to perfect this. So first of all, thank you for being willing to work with us. I'd just like to add, one of my favorite parts of this bill is the flexibility that it offers the whoever is seeking the permits to, you know, if they are able to get a third party to assist with that permitting process and to speed it up, they also have that avenue. So just offers a lot of flexibility and efficiencies for business owners who are really on a tight schedule and are trying to get out there and serve people and grow their business and employ people. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate that. I agree with you.
Thank you, Representative. 28.
Thank. Are we on?
Now,
Appreciate this bill, Senator. Quick question in the section 3 regarding the transferred licenses, lines 89 through 97. Are transferred licenses, and it's talking about every professional licensing board, and I assume that would mean that whole list that the Secretary of State and other bodies establish licensing provisions for. Is it ever defined exactly what a transferred license is? The intent, I think, was to have an expedited process for maybe a temporary license while you're awaiting full licensure.
what that did is sped up the process. If you come from a state that to work here and a license is required here, then you can get that stay on there if the requirements for licensure in the state in which you were coming from met or exceeded the standards that were in Georgia. That's later on in the verbiage. So it was to, you know, when you're coming in, don't hold people up. We do it with the veterans a pretty good bit. I know we do it with CDL drivers coming out of the military. We do it. We passed last year spouses of military members with a licensure within the state. So it's broadening a little bit, but a lot of those numbers that are coming in, we already have accommodations for.
Thank you.
I've got a couple more here real quick. Number 17.
Thank you, Chairman. Sorry, Senator Dugan, just wanted to ask an additional clarification question. So could you just, to take a big step back, remind us kind of the need for this piece of legislation?
Well, the need for it is we're getting to a point where it's becoming more and more complicated across the state with a variety of levels to either bring in and start a new business or to grow the business. Now, I would think that that every entity, somebody asked me about, asked me about GMA and ACCG. I think they would agree, and again, I would ask them this specifically, that that anything we can do to improve the quality of service to people moving into our communities, we should look at. We may differ on how to get there, but I think we would all agree on that premise. There are times that stuff gets lost in the shuffle, and I'm going to use that term loosely there, where I submit something and I think that I'm going to have it back in this amount of time, and then when it's not there, I go and they go, well, you didn't get this signature. What I'm saying is, tell me that a little earlier in the process so I can take care of this. Instead of me, and I think the term I used last year on the last meeting was a scavenger hunt, where I've got to go through as the private citizen, help me, because I'm kind of a believer that the government is here to help the citizens progress, not the citizens here to help the governments progress. And that's the intent of this bill.
Thank you, Senator. Chairman, if I may ask one more question. So I know one of the concerns I had regarding this bill, and one of the concerns that was ultimately raised was the expedited licensing and permitting process, especially given the capacity or the lack thereof that some counties may have, and the effect that that would have in businesses being able to move to some of these smaller counties that don't have that capacity. Has that concern been addressed by some of the rural counties or other areas that may not have? Because Gwinnett, of course, is the second largest. We have plenty of staff to be able to handle
Right.
something like this, but.
Right. The question was asked. Some were concerned about it. Yeah, I know that in the city of Atlanta, there's a whole business model that is based off of expediters. If you go down to and city of Atlanta wants to do that, that's fine. That's their call. But you can go down there, and if you want to hire somebody to work through all the loops in the process to get a permit or a license back faster, that's available to them. My goal is the way we're making tweaks to the adjustment, you won't even need the expediters because everybody will have the same access and the same transparency on the process. Did I just get cut off? Okay, I thought my time was up. The same transparency on the process that they can do it on their own without the expediters.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I agree, and thank you for bringing this bill. We definitely need to streamline government and make it easier for businesses to do business in our state. And it also applies to the complications of transferring a cosmetology license and other industries, not just the ones you mentioned, and being able to get that process. So is there a time frame they have to work within to get this this license expedited? You may have
They
said it
established a
enough.
timeline, and that's what
They establish the cities.
it's what Representative Bruce was alluding to a little while ago.
Okay.
I can't, and I'm gonna pick two cities, and the just first two that came to my mind. So I'm not picking on anybody here, but the requirements in Ocilla and the requirements in Atlanta are not going to be exactly the same. So I want those municipalities to have some leeway, some flexibility in this, that they can establish what's appropriate for their community. And
Okay,
there-
so you didn't mandate a time frame.
No,
You're allowing them
no
to
mandate.
mandate the time frame.
Anytime that you put a cookie cutter solution on everything or anything, you wind up creating more problems than you started off with. I don't want a cookie cutter. I want a tailored. It's not the same thing.
And I agree. Is there a not to exceed a certain amount of time?
That's what we were talking about there. I
Okay,
firmly convinced that the market will adjust that.
yeah, so, because I mean, every day that goes by that someone's not able to work, then that's costing them, and, the person in the city, they're getting paid whether or not,
Right. There, and I should just stop talking while I'm here, but there's a reason that a lot of companies are moving to Georgia.
yes.
And a lot of it is because our business climate is a lot easier to work with than some others. That doesn't mean ours is as good as it possibly can be. And I'm not saying we're bad. I'm saying we can be better.
I agree,
And that's what I'm wanting to do with this is make the process better.
yes. Okay, so, and what did you do in terms of transferring licenses from one state to another? You just said if it's equivalent or more than,
Yes.
but what about the timeline on that? Same thing, they've got time to establish?
It is. Y'all got the marked up version of the bill right there. My seatmate
Your invisible friend?
is, I've got a lot of those, is not here, so I'm not looking at exactly the same one you are, and I don't
Okay.
want to start looking at the next to the last version and give you an erroneous answer.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
24.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senator, I was just looking through the bill, and one thing comes to mind on your professional licensing boards that you're talking about. And this has been a long time ago, so things may have changed. But when I was serving on a professional licensing board, there were reciprocity agreements with other states. And I just wondered if, at that time, there were only 2 states that didn't have reciprocity with Georgia. But if one of those states, somebody came from one of those states, would this require Georgia to take them anyway, even though there's not a reciprocity agreement?
Representative, I'm not sure that I understood fully your question. If if you're subject to a licensing board in another state, and that state's licensing requirements and training.
But no, what I'm saying is, and that's been done by most professional licensing boards. In other words, every state, as I said, except the union, except two in the United States,
Okay.
had those reciprocity agreements, but they were set up because of what you're saying, that, you know, that their license requirements were similar, and you could get moved from one state to another and just reciprocate your license. But there were two states at that time who would not reciprocate with the state of Georgia. Would we be bound to take their licensees anyway?
If they, I don't know which two states what you're talking
Well,
about.
actually, at the time, and I like to say this a long time ago, so I'm not sure, but at the time it was Florida and California.
The language in the bill says that if it exceeds or equals to ours, then they come. Now they still have to be confirmed, or that's the wrong term. I understand that, but you understand what I'm talking about.
Okay, well, this only thing is this would set up a situation where we would have to take a licensee from, say, Florida, but Florida would not necessarily still would not take our license.
Are you 100% sure that we don't have reciprocity with the?
I'll have to check with the board and see
Okay.
if that's changed in the meantime. But I just, that just question came to mind, but I will get an answer to
Okay,
that
'cause
and let you know.
I thought that had been settled,
Okay.
but don't hold me to that, or trust me, but yeah, double check.
Do you have a question, Representative Tarver?
Hello. They
Yes,
got
sir.
me? I want to thank the chairman for bringing this bill, and I was one of the people that had questions, and we spent 4 hours maybe on this, and appreciate you answering all the questions that I and Representative Pizzo had, and as my grandpa used to say, all good Georgians, when they die, they go to Atlanta. And then I'm reminded of when you told, oh, we're not in Kansas anymore. We all come from different parts of the state, and I think you worked well with us on the ways to that makes us all happy, and I think you did an excellent job working with the committee. And at the proper time, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to pass if not any more questions. I do make a motion to pass.
Got a motion and a second, and now we've got discussion.
You just got here.
My lights start lighting up, the both of these on. So which one is on? Hello? Hello? Okay, this one is. Yeah, they just didn't light up. Okay, hi.
Hey.
We're talking about licensing, and like, if you're a nurse, you get a license. Is that all the bill is about? Now, I've not had a chance to read the new version.
No, ma'am, that's not what all the bill's about. It's significantly more than that, as you can see in the revision. Remember, you asked about 273 great questions last year.
Yeah.
And so it may have been one or two more, but but that's just to refresh it. That's what this bill is about. And we took all those modifications that we generated from y'all in the committee and incorporated them. Now, what I said, unfortunately, before you got here, was I didn't want to waste y'all's time going line by line through the bill, because it's the same bill that y'all voted out of here last time. But if I need to, I'll be glad to do it.
I've got about 2 or 3 questions.
Okay.
The first one is on licensing fees. We're talking about reciprocity from other states.
Mm-hmm.
What about the boards that say that, and I'm going to use the dental board as an example.
Representative, I hate to hold you up, but we've already got a motion.
Well, I had
And
a
our meeting
question.
started at 2:00, and you should have been here at 2:00 when we had questions for the committee. We've got a motion on the floor to call for a vote. So,
Excuse me, I had my
at-
hand raised and I pressed both these buttons before the question was raised.
well, I know, but you were late, and
Yes, because I have another committee
we've got a motion
meeting.
on the floor. We're going vote by show of hands. to go ahead and move this bill on the rules.
I'm
At
sorry,
this
I don't know
time.
how DeKalb feels about this and how he affected a county of 700,000 people plus, and that was a big issue from last year.
Well, if it was that important, you should have been here on time to ask the questions
Excuse me, I
at the
had to
committee.
let them know in my other
All right,
committee
thank you.
meeting that I
We got a motion on the floor, to, move forward on, SB two LC 430709 ERS. I'm sorry, LC 430893 ERS. All those in favor, will you raise your hand? All those opposed? All right, the yeses have it. Mr. Chairman, you'll move on to rules. Who will be carrying it for you on the House?
Did we, okay.
Thank you, appreciate it.